Hello, Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce members. This is Drew Camp, President and CEO of the Council Bluffs Chamber, here with another candidate interview with Representative Jon Jacobsen. Representative Jacobsen, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, Drew. Great to be with you. Congratulations on your new appointment here in Southwest Iowa.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed it a lot so far. It's my 9th week, so it's gone by fast, but I'm really enjoying it. We'll top right into the questions now. And the first question I have for you is, what is the top issue Council Bluffs and Southwest Iowa are facing, and how will you address it in the legislature if reelected?
Drew, I'm going to focus again on the preeminent issue, certainly over the course of the last year, including 2019 as well as 2020. And that was the absolutely catastrophic flooding that occurred along I-29 and I-680, closed down our interstate multiple times. But the big thing was the tens of thousands of acres that were underwater, sometimes to the tune of 20 to 30 feet underwater, up there in the Crescent and Loveland and Honey Creek area. We had 4 levees that were breached, and it was catastrophic from many standpoints. We had agribusinessmen and women up there that couldn't get to homes, that were living in temporary housing, that had lost tens of thousands of bushels of grain in their bins, had livestock killed, and had lost farmland seemingly irretrievably. What we did in the legislature, and my colleagues in the House and Dave Seek, who just did an exemplary job, we were able to pass as the first bill in the legislature in 2020, $21 million in funding for the Southwest Iowa area to help secure those 4 levees. I'm pleased to say at this juncture that the Pigeon Creek and Honey Creek levees have been repaired largely, and right now they are actively engaging in the repair of Vanman and Coulter levees. This will mitigate future flooding, and it's been a phenomenal success. These levees, of course, are not Corps of Engineers levees. We were very effective in getting some state funding immediately to bridge the gap there. Of course, FEMA will backfill a great deal of that. But the good news is that that land now is farmable again. I've been up there just within 24 hours, visiting the Millers and the Wests up there on 152nd Street up there in Crescent. And what was underwater last year, they're now harvesting. And, crop insurance rates are going down up there because the levees have been certified so well. Drew, we need to stay on the course here and not let this slip through the fingers at the end, because this is an ongoing project. Obviously, there are issues we have to address with fish and wildlife up further north. The Corps is going to come in and patch up some gaps between and among those 4 levees there with some rock, but we need to keep our eyes on this for a variety of reasons. One being, we've extended the funding out beyond December 31st, just in case there are any issues with weather as they try to take care of Coulter and Vanman. But that was absolutely catastrophic what happened. And it was worse than the 2011 and worse than the 1952 flood. And at this juncture, that's still going to be a prime focus, because frankly, the state of Iowa has indicated that Iowa loses millions of dollars per day when I-29 and I-680 are closed. And when that happened 3 times to 680 and 4 times to I-29 last year, the state lost arguably hundreds of millions of dollars with the rerouting of commerce. Bus lines were not as safe. So that's been key. We want to stay through and see the course on that.
Yeah, that's certainly understandable. There's some big issues there. And what was so heartbreaking too is a lot of people don't know that, for example, if you have grain or anything in your bins, that's not covered by insurance. And a lot of that was just straight loss.
Yeah, we had people that really suffered devastating losses. Now, the Senate and the House have passed a bill to help with some of the grain issues. But, the big issue is, how do people that are on a thin line recover from that? And I've got to salute our local community for stepping in and doing so much good work. We had our hoteliers in the area at discounts, significant discounts, housing some people who were temporarily displaced. We had people running medicines to folks up there in the Crescent Honey Creek area via boat on the river streams and the flooding there. The other thing that I thought was great was our community action agencies, of which I had been a member early in my career with Nebraska Community Action and the Association of Nebraska Community Action Agencies. These people did a great job in finding housing alternatives for people. Some were essentially living at Hitchcock Park in trailers up until winter time. And the community has come in, and Doug Reed, of course, at the emergency center, our county commissioners, our city council, all work together on this. So Iowans are tough and they're gracious. And, we've really tried to turn this lemon into some lemonade.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because we definitely were given lots of lemons in that case.
Yes.
When you look at, this was a statewide issue, obviously, but that we were just talking about, but what are some other top statewide issues that you think need to be addressed, and how will you resolve them if reelected?
Yeah, Drew, we're in this post-COVID, and actually we're still in the middle of this COVID environment. We're in a post-COVID economy right now, and a lot of things have been real stressors on the economy. What we're pleased about in the legislature is that we did very prudently budget prior to COVID. The Revenue Estimating Committee just yesterday came out and said we've got $1/3 billion surplus. Now, in addition to that, we've also, what I would call the Extraordinary Rainy Day Fund ongoing, has about $700 million in it. We've got basically $1 billion in liquidity at the state. What that allowed us to do was to pass a budget in June that did not take a meat cleaver to education and Medicaid. It actually increased funding in both areas. We're an anomaly among a lot of neighboring states that really had to cut budgets significantly. But in addition to that, the CARES Act, we've negotiated about $4.5 billion there. So I was flush with liquidity. The ongoing issue is how to manage and keep businesses alive while being prudent during this terrible medical situation. I would just point to a couple ad hoc instances where it's really important for local folks to communicate with Des Moines. I think we've done that effectively. I'll use two specific examples. Of course, when we were in the throes of the flattening of the curve in March and April, our hospitals really were at low occupancy. And I got a call from our local hospitals asking if there's any way we could reinstate surgeries, elective surgeries. We had gotten over that initial flattening the curve period, but Nebraska for a while was going to, at the behest of Governor Ricketts, begin elective surgeries within a week's time. And that alarmed our hospitals because we still had no ability there to have elective surgeries. And because we're a border community with Omaha, they were afraid that a lot of those appointments were going to be sent over to Omaha. What we did was got on a conference call with the governor and from Southwest Iowa. I asked her to please implement the elective surgery option here for us. And the good news is the governor agreed, and she even beat Governor Ricketts to the punch, and we had him here a week earlier than they had him over in Nebraska. I had a large retailer who employs about 5,500 people in multiple states, but is an Iowa owned and operated business, retail business that has retail in this area, that indicated that they were not far from closing their doors because they literally were choking to death with no retail. And of course, some of the out-of-state box stores across the street from them were thriving, and they could not even open their doors. We were able to prudently get that retail opened, of course, with working with those corporate entities, very safe protocols. And Drew, as you know, as a senior trust officer and vice president at Security National Bank, we have very strict and safe protocols in our banks for social distancing, masking, et cetera, to protect our clientele. And of course, we believe that we're a very good member in good standing with the chamber there, both in Council Bluffs and Omaha, and now in Des Moines as we've moved into Des Moines. But I think the big issue is going to be, how do we continue to ensure that Southwest Iowa gets heard by the governor and by some of the administrative agency heads? And I think thus far we've been successful based on just, for instance, a couple examples I've talked about with the healthcare and the hospitals, as well as some of our major employers.
Mhm. And that's something, my background is policy, and that's
It
just
is.
been a blessing for me. As that's my education. That's where I've worked for 2 years out of school. That's where I did that for
Yes.
7 years in Ames at the chamber. So I really look forward to bringing that apparatus, in my skills there, to the Council Bluffs Chamber, and starting with session and working with folks like you if you're reelected.
Well, Drew, you come with a fine reputation. I have colleagues from that area, from both sides of the aisle, and they both have said just outstanding things about you. I think you're an excellent addition for us here in Southwest Iowa. We're really fortunate to have you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you. I really did enjoy working with both sides, whether it was Lisa Heddens and Beth Wessel Rochelle, or Rob Bacon and
Yes.
Dave Dio up there. That we had some good folks up there, and it was great working with them.
We actually have a lot of fun. There's a lot of bipartisan comity. Beth sits right behind me. Bacon and Dio just up in front and off to the side. And I think Rob Bacon is about the funniest human being I have ever
I was just going to
met.
say that
You
guy's a
only
hoot.
do.
He'll have you rolling, and within 2 seconds of meeting him, yeah, he'll tell you a joke.
And I've had Beth on my radio show too, and she's quite good. She's got a mirthful side to her too. So it's all good.
Yeah, it is. It was good working with those folks, but like I said, I really look forward to working with everyone over here too, and getting those relationships built.
You bet.
When we look at opportunities for the state of Iowa, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for the state going forward?
Well, we've got some real strengths. We've got strengths in the job market. There have been many different polls and ratings that have come out about Iowa being a great place for families, great place for safety, great place for cost of living, getting the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak. I think our strong and robust economy. Now, Drew, I'm vice chair of the Commerce Committee in the House. And because I come from a business background, they've had me in my 2 years there running an awful lot of business bills that are job creation bills. And I think we could continue to move this. Some of this involves updating the code. We have a somewhat antiquated business corporation code. We're trying to get B Corps introduced that will help with some of the nonprofits and charitable based, socially conscious based corporate operations. We're also trying to continue to create an environment that brings people in. For example, I ran 7 insurance bills last year, all that got signed by the governor. But these insurance bills were largely job creating and consumer protection bills. One is going to bring expanded insurance lines. Some insurance companies are actually going to come into Iowa and domicile here. Some special lines groups that will bring in additional flood insurance. And so we've got some jobs coming in definitely from the insurance industry and the financial services sector. Again, our bank, which is an Omaha-based bank, is really doubled down and is moving very heartily into the Iowa area. We now have a full-service bank in Council Bluffs, and just opened a beautiful full-service bank at Jordan Creek. I was just there last evening, and we're creating.
I've seen it. It's very nice.
Yeah, many additional jobs, and of course, that helps the community. And I congratulate the Land and Family on this investment into Iowa. So we've got a lot of good things going. The other thing, of course, Iowa's always been the education state, and I think it's just important to talk about the fact that for Southwest Iowans, we've really been promoting the ability of our Southwest Iowans to retain some of our tax dollars. Ergo, we've been able to fully fund Iowa School for the Deaf and Blind, all of their infrastructure, their HVAC projects. I work closely with David Kerr and Gary Moore on that. And we've done some legislation for the deaf and hard of hearing community that has been very, very helpful. So from an educational standpoint, that's my region's school. in my own backyard. The other thing is the rural transportation equity situation. There are football stadium being built in Waukee and the great Linn-Mar High School in Marion, Iowa, but I want our folks in Southwest Iowa to be able to retain some more of our tax dollars. And of course, the discrepancy in Southwest Iowa is the rural transportation costs. It costs us more to educate because with our rural districts, and I have several in House District 22, which encompasses basically all of Pottawatomie County, the rural transportation costs are higher. And we don't want school budgets having to allocate dollars that should be for education for transportation costs. So we have now permanently funded with 8 digits worth of endowment figures, a rural transportation equity fund. It averages out close to $200 per capita per student here in Southwest Iowa. And I think that allows us to focus on education. Because we had budgeted well and had the surplus and the rainy day fund, we actually were able to increase both the mental health funding in the schools as well as the public safety in the schools. That penny extension continued on for school financing. We increased supplemental school aid by $100 million last year. We maintained operational sharing flexibility to be able to be made at local levels. So I think all in all, we really have kept the eyeball on making sure that education remains paramount in Iowa. And of course, our great community colleges here, which we have also increased funding for, the jobs training is just phenomenal. Just think of what a welder graduating from Iowa Western, they're placed immediately and the salaries are tremendously high. So education's huge. We've had that gap in the need for tradesmen and tradeswomen. And we've had a lot of bachelor's degrees graduates, and that's great. But we've had this dearth, this lack of people that we need to job train to get in there to the trades. And the community colleges have been great partners in this local area. Iowa Western, obviously, one of the best in the nation, working with our local business community. And that's how it should be, walking arm in arm with that respect. And so education is another huge, huge component of that.
And I'm glad you referenced the community colleges because, yeah, we work so closely with them in Iowa Economic Development Authorities. We try to grow businesses and get them the assistance they need as they look to grow. And you mentioned the business community. That leads me into my next question, and it's
Sure.
kind of twofold. And it's as you look at some of our top policy priorities, a lot
Right.
of times it has to do with income tax and tax reform, economic development assistance programs, tax increment financing, placemaking initiatives, which is essentially, in my definition, bringing amenities to people that make them want to live, to attract and retain them.
Right.
So when you look at some of those priorities, how will you work with the business community and the chamber to move those forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, Drew. Number one, I've got a really good working relationship with our mayor, with our city council, and with our county commissioners. And so there is a lot of talk and discussion and working together. I've done some things in the legislature that have assured our ongoing revenue stream from certain fees and other revenue situations that allow us to continue to do that in Southwest Iowa with some local control. There's a lot of debate about, do you go with urban renewal or do you go with urban revitalization? And of course, one uses more abatements, one uses more TIF spending. And I think the analogy is to breathe with both lungs. I think some large projects, the TIF spending definitely has to continue. I think with some other smaller projects, the abatement route can really work. And I sense in talking with the council, particularly with the 3 new members that we have that now comprise a majority that votes on the council, and talking to Mayor Walsh, I think there's a comfort zone with addressing these prudently, these projects ad hoc, and being willing to breathe with either lung, either the revitalization or the renewal lung there. I think that the biggest thing is for state government to get out of the way and not micromanage the local communities. If my party believes in local control, we've got to allow that say locally. And I'm in the world of economics. I'm a big fan of the principle of subsidiarity, and that says that decision making is best done always at the most local level. Now, obviously, we have situations of crises, emergency, a pandemic, and catastrophic flooding in derecho. My mom lost her home in Marion, Iowa, at 84 from the derecho. That's when you need to. Yeah, well, she's hanging in there, doing real well. She's Iowa tough. She's Iowa nice. She's Iowa tough, and we pride ourselves on having true grit. But I think right now we want to bring in these big projects, the big Fortune 500 world-class tech firms, and yet we also want to encourage small and medium-sized businesses, which still do such a huge amount of employment, at least in the Midwestern United States. So it's a bit of a balancing act. We can't crush out the small businesses. It's similar to ag. We don't want our food supply concentrated in just a few hands. We want that distribution so that there's much competition. And this COVID thing has definitely hurt the small businesses. But I was in Des Moines last night, and I thought I would eat at Bravo Italian restaurant for the first time, and it's closed forever. So we've got to find a way to bridge the gap. And so I think we'll use TIF when necessary. We'll use some abatements when prudent. We will be taking a look, and sometimes we'll focus on urban renewal, sometimes on urban revitalization. The key here is also to make sure that we've got our eye on the ball in our rural communities in Pot County, of which I've got 12 or 13 townships. I'm encouraged that there are many small business retail shops that are still alive and well in some of these communities, even like Macedonia, and Trainer's got some nice little shops set up, and then up north in Underwood and Neola. And I'm so proud of how people have come back during the flooding. Henry's is doing well up in Crescent, Iowa. So you always want to be able to grab burger and fries at Henry's up there.
I haven't made it there. I've driven by, but I haven't stopped in yet. I'll have to do that. The last question I have is, what unique skills do you bring to the position, and how do these attributes help you in selling voters to cast their ballot for you on November 3rd, or starting with absentee voting on October 5th?
Sure. Well, one reason, Drew, is I'm a business man, and I think that businessmen and businesswomen are uniquely situated to be of great help in a legislative body. Frankly, right now we don't have enough business people in the legislature, and I have created hundreds of jobs throughout my career, largely as a community banker, growing 3 different banks. And I just think that ability to understand budgeting, payroll, human resources issues, workplace rights issues, marketing issues, accounting and finance, management issues, those all are brought to bear very successfully in the Capitol, and also helps me be very empathetic toward employees and employers in their situations. And I know it works at the local level to spur jobs, because we've had tremendous bank growth during my bank career, and that's jobs. The best social program is a job. The second thing is that I am an attorney. I'm a University of Iowa law graduate, and that helps me be a very good advocate, and also helps me to take a look at problem areas. I work a lot in elder law because we are fiduciaries that are working with the courts mandated to protect the assets and the actual safety of many of our clients who are vulnerable because of Alzheimer's or dementia, or even young children that are T-boned in a car wreck that may be quadriplegics. We have to fight for them. And so I've learned as an attorney to fight hard for people. My constituents or my clients, I will zealously advocate for them always. We've been very successful at that. The third thing I would say, Drew, is that I have a hobby. It's called radio, and I've had a radio program now for 7 years. First on KMA, now on a Boomer Radio Network out of Omaha, but also in Council Bluffs. We are the official home and away voice of the Iowa Hawkeyes in this part of the country. But my team and I, we have won 26 Iowa Broadcast News Association awards. Everything from political coverage to public service to feature to in-depth series to best online news to best weather coverage to best sports coverage. And I think that ability to communicate via mass media, particularly radio, and to be recognized by my peers for hard journalism, hard reporting, and be awarded by such, it is really important to be able to communicate and use the English language to help to persuade and to help to inform. So I would say that combination of business skills and legal representation skills and radio media skills have helped me. But perhaps the best prep was raising 3 teenagers and surviving to tell about it. That might be the best prep and expertise.